Hi everybody, so as you can see I've created a Codepen today which you can access at the URL which will be available below this video. With that link you can access this and you can have a look at what's styled out. I've already created a form for you and I've created a CSS style sheet, and all you'll have to do is open it and use the fork button to give you a different version for yourself, and then we can start styling. So the main focus of today is we're going to be styling these radio buttons, because without a doubt these default browser radio buttons are boring. So wouldn't it be nice if we could alter them, make them fit our designs, customize them? Well, we can. And the way to do this is to first of all go and select all of our inputs with the type of radio. So that selects all of our radio buttons, which we have 3 of, and then give them opacity of 0. And they're gone. Definite improvement already. Obviously I'm joking, we need to actually make them look nice, not just get rid of them. So you're probably thinking, if you've got rid of them, how are you going to style them? Well, the trick is we're going to go and style this span instead. Notice next to each of my inputs there is an empty span. That empty span is going to replace our radio buttons. So if I go down here and I select each input with a type of radio, and then I get the span that sits next to it using the plus span selector, we need to first of all make this inline, so we can treat it like we first of all need to make this a block element, because a span is naturally an inline element. So if we make it into a block element, we can actually style it, size it. So let's make it a block element. Then we're going to give it a width of 20 pixels and a height of 20 pixels to match. Now we need to give it a border just so we can see it. 1 pixel solid, and we'll go with a black. There we go, we have our new replacement radio buttons. If we have a look at that, we probably don't want our text sat below the radio button, so let's go and just style the label, because realise that each of these inputs and spans is wrapped within the label. So if we just make the label flex, and that will automatically make it a flex row. And in fact I've made the radio buttons transparent, which will work. However, because they are still there, we just can't see them, they are nudging my spans across a little bit. So what I'll do instead is I'll make it display none. There we go, and now they have actually replaced it. So the radio buttons are still active, they just don't get displayed. Let's add a margin next to the span. So on the right, just to spread that text out a bit, of half a rem. That looks a bit better. And again, let's go and make the label. Let's give it an align items center, just so the text sits a little more central to the span. That's great. And let's just add some margin between these as well if we can. So let's go and put in margin bottom 1 rem, and in fact I'm just going to give my header a margin as well. Just to push those down, that looks nicer. So there we go, we have something that looks a little more like the page it's in. But now how are we going to make these work? Because right now they don't do anything. We click them, but nothing happens. So we need to give them an active state as well, or a checked state. So for each input of type radio, same as before, and then checked, and then the span, and then we can say, just for a simple test, background colour equals green, just to see if it's working, and it is. So now they respond. But we probably want to make them look a bit nicer than that, so I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to give them a border radius of 10 pixels. So now they're rounded instead of square. And then, instead of having this directly onto the span, let's have it on a pseudo element on the span. And then position, absolute, content, because if you're doing a pseudo element you need to give it an empty content, otherwise it won't appear. Give it a position of absolute so it'll be on top. Of course, in order for that to work we need the span itself to have a position of relative or anything other than its default. We need to define it with a position, which is fine. Let's give it a width of 10 pixels, a height of 10 pixels, background colour, let's make this a bit more exciting, let's make this purple. So notice that's appearing already. We want that to have a border radius as well, 50%. That'll make that round, but now we want that centered, do we? And in fact we'll make it a bit larger as well, 15 pixels instead of 10. So we're nearly there, we just need to center it. And I think the best way to do that, as before, is probably to say, because we've made that instead of making that a block element, let's make it a flex element. Then we'll make it justified, center, and aligned. Center. And for some reason that looks a little bit off. I think it's because it's an odd number. That looks better. So okay, it now looks a little bit like it originally did. However, I'm going to animate it now, and I could do that by adding in animation name. In fact, let's create the animation first. So we're going to call this animation click. We're going to give it a start state. We're going to give it a start state of transform scale 0. And then at 100%, so at the end we want it to be scale of, let's say, 1.2, in fact maybe 1.1, just to bring it a little bit over. In fact, we'll make that the 90% mark. In fact, no, we'll just go for a full for now. See what it looks like. So our animation will start with nothing and it will grow to this stage of how it did before, like that. So in order for that to work, we need to go and put in an animation. Animation name is click. Animation duration, which is how long it takes. Let's make it 0.5 seconds. Animation iteration count. That's a mouthful. We just want that to happen once. And the animation direction is forwards. And by doing that, it will play start to end just the once, and that's fine. So now we have an animated radio button. I think that looks pretty cool. So there you have it, that's how you make custom radio buttons. I hope this video has been useful to you. If it has, feel free to leave a comment below. Also, be sure to like, share, and definitely do subscribe.